Hello everyone and welcome to another session of AP Human Geography with Mr. Elrod. We're continuing on in Unit 2, and today we're going to be talking about population pyramids. Population pyramids are pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is a pyramid that is put together in order to help to evaluate a country's population so that statisticians and demographers and things can look at what's going on in the country's population. Now it is a bar graph, but the bar graph is not it's not laying like a normal bar graph where it's horizontal and the bars rise vertically, but instead it's placed vertically and the bars run horizontally. And the bar graph is actually going to contain two sides. It's going to first of all, it's going to be divided into age groups. These are called cohorts. And these cohorts are generally divided into 5-year age groups, and so in today's population pyramids, most of them run from 0 to about 80 or so, and so you're going to have that divided up into 5-year cohorts. And then on either side of the bar graph, you're going to have the pyramid divided up into gender groups, males and females. Generally speaking, males are going to be on the left-hand side of the population pyramid, whereas females are typically going to be on the right-hand side of the population pyramid. Most of the time, these will be labeled, but sometimes they may not be, so the general rule of thumb is just know that males are on the left and females tend to be on the right. Now again, the use of the population pyramid is to not only evaluate the country's population, but also potentially predict the future population growth of that particular country and evaluate what's going on with the population currently, and then where is the population headed. Now, it's not just to look at it and then say, well, that looks really nice, but instead it's to evaluate, you predict the future, and then so that countries can take steps towards, if they need to, towards fixing or trying to encourage the population to move in one way or another, or to know that they need to make adjustments in maybe some policies so that they can encourage the economy to grow. Services that are going to be needed in the future, whether it's services for young people, such as schools or clinics of some kind, or for the elderly, so things like nursing homes or other forms of geriatric care, those types of things. And so it really helps for the government, especially the government and other groups, to be able to predict and look at what's going on with the country's population. Here we have an example. This is from the U.S. Census Bureau. In fact, you can go to the U.S. Census Bureau website. You can look at population pyramids from just about any country in the world. This is from the country of Canada in the year 2000, so a little bit dated. And so you notice this doesn't look exactly like a pyramid, but again, it's broken down into these cohorts, starting with age range 0 to 4. Males are on the left, females are on the right. And each bar is showing you how many people are living in the country at the time in that particular cohort. So you notice here some features about Canada's population pyramid, and we'll talk more about this in just a minute. You notice that at this point on the population pyramid, you had what looked like a normal population pyramid. Not normal population, but normal pyramid, okay, where you had a wider base and then a thinner top. And this typically is going to denote to us population growth. Now notice what happened after this point. The 35 to 39 age group, our population pyramid begins to shrink or move in. Now this is denote a potential future population decline. Now what I will say about this is Canada will still experience growth, even though it's not going to be growth that is incredibly rapid. Up until this point, they had experienced more rapid growth, but at this point, they're going to start to see less rapid growth. Now, the reason that Canada's population will continue to grow, and even though it's ever so slightly, is because you notice there are more young people down here than there are elderly. So these sides of the pyramid will continue to fill up, and so this gap that exists right here is going to fill in with people. And so what that means is that Canada's population will naturally increase. Now, if this trend continues, where the sides of the pyramid continue to move inward, meaning people are having fewer children, then after you have this increase right here, Canada's population will begin to decline. And in fact, that is one of the concerns of most Western nations, is that potentially in the future they might see population decline because people are having fewer children. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the demographic transition model. Now, some countries are experiencing population decline, but it's not a tremendous amount of countries, and we'll look more at that in just a second. Again, one of the main concerns today, especially in more developed countries, is this idea of what's called graying population. What that means is that essentially you have more elderly people in the population than young people. And that's caused by people deciding to have fewer children. And as people have fewer children, the generations before there were more children, and so there are more people in that particular age group. And so as those people get older, the problem is that we have the questions of, as people get older, there's fewer young people in the population. Who's going to take care of the elderly? If the middle-aged men and women are at work, maybe their parents, they're older and can't take care of themselves. Who's going to take care of them? Are they going to be put in nursing homes? Is full-time care going to be hired? What's going to happen to them? What if the men and women, it's only a single child, can't afford to take care of their parents, because taking care of the elderly can be very expensive because of all the different types of medicines or round-the-clock care that they need. Who's going to pay for that? And that kind of gets back to that question. What if the men and women can't, or the son or daughter can't afford to pay for their parents? Is it then the government's responsibility? Is it society's responsibility to take care of them? We're certainly not just going to let old people sit on the street corner and die. So who is it that's going to pay for those people? And then, as the population continues to get older, who's going to do the work? Who's going to replace the people that were retiring? And so you have a lot of issues at hand. Not only do you have fewer people working, which means that you're going to have fewer people paying taxes, but then fewer people are going to be available for the jobs, and so there's the potential that those jobs could end up moving, because the company no longer has people that can work those jobs, depending on what kind of job it is. So they might move elsewhere, which means not only does the country lose the tax revenue from the workers, but they also lose the tax revenue from the company itself. And so it creates really a whole host of problems. This idea of graying population, which, as we talked about in our previous video with total fertility rate of 2.1, that's why a lot of countries want to reach replacement fertility, because you don't necessarily want to grow the population if you're in more developed countries, but you at least want to keep it about the same, so that things can kind of continue on. The economy can continue on, social services can continue on, those types of things. Now, as we talked about scale in our one of our first videos, you notice here these are a variety of different population pyramids from around the United States. This first one up here in the corner, this is a population pyramid of the entire United States, so you notice how that looks. Now again, the United States is continuing to grow, so the population hasn't necessarily started to decline. These sides are starting to fill out, so it looks like we have some nice even growth there. But notice what happens if we look at specific places in the United States, and this is when we get to this idea of scale. You look at some places like this one down here, down in the very bottom left-hand corner. Obviously, that does not look anything like the population pyramid of the United States. This one highly skewed to the left, showing a very large male population about middle age. And so that might give you an idea of what exactly is going on in this place. And so either a military base or work going on. That would be predominantly a male work. It is in Alaska, so possibly the shipping industry, something like that. You have this particular pyramid right here, Lawrence, Kansas. You notice that you have a highly skewed on both the male and the female side, so this might tell you that this is a college town of some kind. This particular pyramid right here, Naples, Florida. Notice very limited number of young people, but a very large number of older people, so a retirement town. But again, this kind of gets to the idea of scale, depending on which area it is that I'm looking at. I'm going to get different types of population pyramids, even though the population pyramid of the United States looks like this one up here in the upper left. Again, we get back to another example of a population pyramid. This is the country of Belgium in the year 2000. And we see, very similar to Canada, that you had this growing population here up until about the ages of 30 to 35. And then we see this decline. Now, if you look here in this, right underneath the 25 to 29 age group, this section right here, you see kind of this steeper decline, which tells us that these people here in the 25 to 29 are having fewer and fewer children. And then the 0 to 4 age group, look how small that is. It means fewer and fewer children are being born. Now again, population will continue to grow, because you notice the number of children being born is still more than the elderly population you have up here. So you are going to have a growing population for a time, But if this trend continues, then you are definitely going to have population decline in the future. And then this is what demographers are really concerned about, and this is the prediction for Japan in the year 2050. You notice how you have this huge portion of the population is in the 80 plus range. Of course, retired, elderly, probably can't take care of themselves mostly, need medication, need constant looking after. And then, here is your workforce down in here. Okay, the 65 to 15 or so. This is a declining population, and so that means that fewer and fewer people are going to be in the workforce, paying taxes, able to take care of those people. And so you have a tremendous problem if the trend like this continues, and you can see the prediction is that it will continue. And so Japan could be in potentially be in a lot of trouble if this particular trend continues. But if we look at another example, this is the Chinese population pyramid in the year 1990. You notice that China's situation is that obviously it had a very large growing population for a long time. In fact, this type of base of the pyramid indicates to us very rapid growth. But you notice that you had a little shrink for a time, but on the base here, it looks like we're going to continue to grow that. And of course, China has been trying to curtail its population through the one-child policy, and it's had some success. In fact, you've had some issues with it because in several Asian cultures, the male child is preferred to the female child, and so you've had issues with people discarding female children. But not only that, since everybody wants a male child, there happens to be a dearth of female children. So you have issues with men not being able to find wives, and so that has created some social issues as well. So this is just an example of a pyramid that looks different from the other pyramids that we've been looking at, showing a growing population instead of population that is moderately growing or declining. That's all we're going to talk about for right now. We will come back next time looking at dependency ratios.